Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Pure Pathways for another episode from our Animals in the Quran series. Today we'll be talking about a creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has over 28,000 species and has been on earth for over 200 million years. That creature is the spider. Surah Al-Ankabut, the surah of the spider, was sent down during a time when the Muslims in Mecca were being ridiculed and abused by the idol worshippers of Quraysh. The Muslims were struggling to hold on to their faith and looking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect them. So Allah revealed the ayah about the spider as an example He was giving to the idol worshippers who worshipped gods other than Him. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "The example of those that take allies other than Allah is like that of the spider who takes a home. And indeed, the weakest home is the home of the spider, if only they knew." But what does the spider's house have to do with idol worshipping? The idol worshippers thought that their gods would help them and provide for them. They would pray to them for everything, and they thought the idols would protect them. But Allah was teaching them that the power of those gods is like the spider's house, the weakest of all. By hanging on to those gods, they were like the spider which gets no protection from its home. So why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the spider's web the weakest house of all? If you've ever watched a spider spin its web, I'm sure you were amazed. The spider's house is such an amazing creation of Allah, but physically it is the weakest house of all. Just think about it. This web doesn't protect the spider from the heat of the sun, nor does it protect it from the extreme cold. The silk threads don't provide the spider with shade, nor do they protect it from the rain, or strong winds, or the dangers of attackers. You can easily destroy a spider's web with a stick, a duster, or even your own finger. And an interesting thing we now know about the spider web is that it is almost always spun by the female. It is a scientific fact that the male spider spends his life traveling and rarely stops to spin a web. And even on the rare occasions when he does, his web is never as impressive as the female's. So let's connect this back to the ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it 1400 years ago, and He had mentioned the spider in the female pronoun when He said, "Ittakhadhat baytan." She built a home. Look how accurate the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are. The spider's house is also weak in a spiritual sense because it is void of all love and kindness, which are the pillars of any happy home. In some spiders, the female kills the male as soon as fertilization takes place. Being larger in size and more violent, the female kills the male and eats its body. In some cases, the female spider even eats its own babies. In some species, the female dies after laying her eggs, which are kept in a silk bag. And when those eggs hatch, the spider babies, which are called spiderlings, find themselves in a very crowded area inside the bag. The spiderlings then fight each other for food and space, the siblings killing each other until the fight ends with only a few spiderlings remaining. This is very different than the happy homes of the bees and the ants that we have spoken about before. Unlike bees and ants, spiders do not work together. They rarely even live together. You will never see two spiders sharing one web. And this is where we see how accurate Allah's words are in the Quran. When the ant and the bee were mentioned in the Quran, Allah referred to them in the plural form because ants and bees live in communities and work together. However, when Allah mentions the spider, He refers to it in the singular form because spiders almost always live alone. Now do you know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the spider's house the weakest of all? Of all the animals and insects, its house is the most violent and ruthless house, lacking all forms of love and connection. So let's go back for a minute. We already said that this weak house was mentioned as a lesson for idol worshippers who trusted in gods that could not protect them. But how is that a lesson for you and me? We don't worship idols. Well, We all know that the spider's web is a sticky net. It's a deadly trap for other insects who get stuck in it, then get eaten by the spider. In the same way, anyone who puts their trust in anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become stuck in a trap which will lead them to make the wrong decisions and destroy their lives on earth and in the hereafter. So how does this happen? Well, some people think that their money or their fame will protect them. Some people think that they are so smart, so rich, or so strong that they don't even need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They start to hang out with people who lead them to the wrong path, and they start to do bad things. And just like a fly gets stuck in the spider's web and can't get out, we could also get stuck in a web of lying, cheating, stealing, wasting time, and all kinds of haram, which will only end up hurting us and hurting the people around us. And just like spiders live alone and solitary, living a life away from Allah and copying the wrong people will leave us feeling all alone with no protector. As Muslims, we feel safe hanging on to the rope of Allah. Our Quran, our Salah, our good deeds, we use all of those to hang on to Hablullah, which is the strongest rope of all. It will protect us from all the traps of the bad people and shaitan. Who would have thought we could learn all these lessons through the example of a spider? As we can see, there are so many treasures to discover inside the Quran. Let's discover some more together next time when we talk about the locust. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. May all your pathways be pure. Assalamu alaikum.